Welcome to the webinar. Happy to have you all here. I am Rohit Mathur, a co-founder of FieldWorker, along with my partner in crime, Prabhat Vesh, who is here with me today, as well as Chris Delgado and Sunny Nair from the management team, account management team, who are focused on customer success and work with clients very, very closely. So together we are bringing a ton of, experience hopefully to the table and give you a lot of good information. Quick background. I come with family experience in developmental disabilities, so a lot of personal experience, and Prabhat and I bring several decades of technology experience to the field, as well as working in the developmentally disabled space. Prabhat is also currently a professor of computer science at NJIT. So overall, great familiarity with developmental disabilities, service delivery, as well as technology. FieldWorker is a software product that we developed over a few years after we realized the challenges that organizations are facing. And basically, our focus is twofold. Of course, the primary focus is to deliver excellent care to IDD people, but also our focus is coming from the point of view of the agencies delivering this care and how to help them in whatever way we can to deliver this care and make things better for everybody involved. We would like to keep this webinar as informal as possible, so please drop in questions, of course, in the chat or Q&A window. Any thoughts, any ideas, challenges that you are facing, questions that you might have. We are happy to take them up as we go along or take them up at the end, and we are looking forward to conversing more with you. So very informal session is what we would like to do. So what we are going to do here today is a couple of things. We are going to discuss for a few minutes what are some of the factors which will help you deliver excellent care, right? So improving things for the care providers, for the care support coordinators, for the agency management. Overall, what are the challenges that you are facing, and how there are ways to improve the quality of care for the IDD individuals. Following that, we are going to delve into some of the things that we have built, right, which help you achieve that. Some of the areas that we can help you, some of the things, some of the ways FieldWorker resolves or figures out some of those challenges that you face. We want to keep to the timeline, so we are going to keep it tight, but we are going to leave some time for Q&A along the way, and as well as to the end. So please feel free to ask any questions via chat, and we are happy to take them. If you have any questions which are specific to your agency, right, and you would not like to discuss them during this open forum, then please reach out to us. You can drop an email to info@fieldworker.ai, or one of us will drop our email addresses in the chat, and you can reach out to any one of us directly as well. Our email address is firstname@fieldworker.ai. So Chris is chris@fieldworker.ai, Sunny is sunny@fieldworker.ai, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, workers and agency owners, we find, are passionate about the work they do and always want to deliver the highest quality of service. But there are long-standing problems in the areas of IDD care delivery, right? There is a shortage of workers. Worker burnout is a significant issue and a real problem. And a recent report says that we will be short almost 1 million workers over the next decade, right? So there are difficult conditions. You're dealing with difficult situations. It's a hard job, right? And we all understand that. Significant documentation requirements for Medicaid, significant audit responsibilities that are coming down. There are so many things that you have to deal with and many hurdles that you have to cross. So are there ways to tackle some of these issues? So we are trying to do our part here in helping you achieve and excel in the care delivery that you do, while at the same time making lives of your care providers easier, etc. There are so many different ways. So let me start off with this, right? Let me start off with a question for Prabhat, right? Prabhat, can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you see facing service provider agencies or support coordination agencies in New Jersey specifically, and some of the hurdles that you see to delivering top quality care?
Sure, and welcome everyone. Basically, this is something that is pretty close to our heart, and in New Jersey specifically, because that's where we are situated. And also we have been working with a lot of different agencies which are engaged with both in providing services to these customers and also coordination work that might be required while you're working with a specific client or a pair or any combination thereof. Of late, what we have started noticing is there are a lot of employees who are either churning pretty quickly, which adds to the problem the agency owners are always dealing with, in the sense to find the right worker who can actually do this job. As Rohit mentioned earlier, almost all of you are very passionate. You are actually believe in helping out the people who require the help, so you're working in there. The issue that has come up or has brought up multiple times that there's shortage of the people. Primarily, there's a burnout where the people are joining and then not necessarily getting involved or engaged for a long time. We see the help with the training, getting them better tools that they can actually work with their customers and be able to produce required documentation that might be required for either by your payer or by your administrator or by your auditor, whatever the case may be. So some of the problems that come are really trying to find better tools so that you, as a service provider, as a care provider, can work what you really want to work with and not get engaged in unnecessary documentation, right?
Yes, perfect. That is good. So can you talk a little bit about some of the solutions that companies are implementing to solve some of these problems? What are people doing these days?
Right. So if you think about it, I mean, that's a great point, because as an agency owner, your goal is to maximize the revenue, obviously, while providing the best service that you can to your customers and your patients. That's the prime reason why you're in the business, right? You're trying to help with your agencies and you're trying to provide the best service and the best environment for your employees. Now, one of the ways that we have seen a lot of agencies trying to help their customers as well as their employees is by providing better tools. Now, better tools to organize their information in place, in time, and in the right order. And this is where the technology helps. Many agencies, which are really not a large agency or large companies, maybe small or mid-size, have always struggled with technology or using the technology tools so that they can work efficiently. This is the area where we think our product, our tool, or our ideas can help you, both you as an agency owner as well as your employees.
Perfect. This is great. And I think what we are going to do now is thank you for that, Prabhat, insightful answers on some of these questions. But what we are going to do next is just actually show you how this works. And Sunny is going to do that. We're going to show you a couple of ways, right? FieldWorker. We are going to focus today on service providers and support coordinators and show you a little bit of how FieldWorker is highly customizable, and it can be configured to suit the needs of your agency, whether you are a service provider, a support coordinator, a case management company, whatever. But we are going to show you that exactly now. And again, feel free to ask us questions, any ideas, thoughts that you might have, challenges that you are specifically facing. and we are happy to discuss those through this webinar. Without further delay, I'll hand it over to Sunny to go in and show us what FieldWorker can do for you. Sunny,
Sure.
to you.
Thank you so much, Rohit, and good afternoon, everybody. Rohit, can I get sharing rights, please?
Yes, let me do that. I thought I'd already done that, but let's do this. Yep, here you go.
Yes. Great. So I can share my screen now, and we'll be walking through the product, just talking about different aspects and different configurations on the system. So I'm just going to give it a minute before my screen loads. Stop sharing and then reshare. Do you see my screen? Right here.
Yes.
So this is the login page. Yes. So this is the login page. We use Microsoft in order to log in. So every employee of yours would have a login, personal login information. And we use Microsoft in order to be HIPAA compliant. So the system is completely HIPAA compliant, as well as us employees. We go through HIPAA training. It's a single sign-on, so every employee would receive their own user ID and password, which would get them access to the system. So as it's a single sign-on, the first time you have the system remember your password and the user ID. You do not need that information at hand every time you log in. So once you log in, this would be the home screen. You see, we have a lot of information on the home screen. As an employee, I'm currently an admin employee. We have different designations on the system. We have admin, field worker, manager, default. And as Rohit mentioned, most of the system is configurable. So designations, labeling on the system can be configured, and all of this can be done by the admin through the system itself. So this is the home screen, and let me walk you through a bit of the configure options that we have on the system. Right? So different options can be configured, options like contact types, your customer types, your locations, as well as different task types. So different services that you provide that you would like your employees to create time for or time against can be configured onto the system. And we have different types of agencies who are operating off the system. So you can be a support coordinator, service provider, a case management agency. So all of these options are available to an admin through the system itself in the configurations. Coming back to the home, on the home screen, you have upcoming appointments. So when you log in, you have a good view of what are the tasks for the day and what you have upcoming, as well as a quick view of the timesheet. So any tasks that you have created for the previous days, anything that you have worked on currently, as well as recent calls. So you can make phone calls through our mobile app, and we record that a call was made, and they would show up here. So there call to a client, anything that you make using our application, they would show up here on the recent calls. Now, coming into the client information. So this is where you would see a list of all your clients. In order to get your clients into the system, we have different methods for different types of agencies. So we have a bulk upload feature, which is a template where most of the agencies can get their client demographic information as well as associated employees through the bulk import. So it's a one-time process. We have a template mentioned in the new option. So when I go to new and I go to bulk import, bulk upload, these are the different templates that we have where you can get in a long list of customers by a single click, by saving this information in a CSV format and uploading it. What that does is it sets up client information with the projects and all related information through the iRecord import. So you can either use the manual process of entering in a new customer, or we also have the bulk upload to get in a load of customers in one click. Now, once we come back to the clients tab, you will see a list of all your active clients. We do not delete information off the system. So you always have active, inactive, or prospect clients mentioned here. Coming into the client overview, every client information, there is an overview which gives you most of the client demographic information that you have stored. So when I go to the edit option, you will see that we store a lot of client information, different types of data can be stored on the system. So like county, race, ethnicity for the client, all of this information, the Medicaid ID, the diagnosis code, the DDD tier can be stored for a client. And then we also have customer tasks. Now, as a service provider, you might be providing services which are EBV compliant, as well as services that can be built through NGMMIS. What the customer tasks helps in, it helps solve the problem of the employee entering in time for a service that was not authorized for a client. So from this list, you see we have community-based support, which is an EBV visit, right? This is an EBV mandated service. So if selected for this customer, your employee who is working, or DSP who is working with the customer, would only be able to create time against this task type. So that reduces time being entered in for a service that has not been authorized for the client. So you can set this based for every client. If you do not select any options, they'll have a list of all the task types and can add in time. But if I say, it's just community-based home visit, these are the information that he would be using, I can save this. When I try to enter in time, I would only see these options, right? So that's customer information. We have also a view of the recent notes. So case notes is a major part of service providing. So we have recent notes that are displayed here, and I'll talk about this in detail as well once we go to the notes feature and how these notes can be entered into the system, edited, and handled through FieldWorker. Coming in to the second tab, we have projects. So a project is typically a service that the client has been approved for. So, based on the SDR document that you receive for a client, you can have multiple services, community-based respite, individual supports for different types of the plan. So you can add multiple projects and then bifurcate the tasks, files, or documents and notes into these projects. So it gives you a good idea. For example, here I have a community-based support ongoing, and then a respite project which was completed for the client. So, notes can be broken down into these different projects. So it gives you a good bifurcation of data and which service does that data relate to through the project. So you can set the start date, end date based on the plan information from the SDR, which gives you a good capability of seeing when a plan is expiring for a client and everything that is related to that project right there. And again, we do not delete any of this information. So even if you have a completed project, the client, moves out of the system, it will move to inactive. All of this information would still be present. So if you retain a client, or you can just set it back to active and you get access to what all you have worked with for the client. So we never delete information. That's the projects. Coming into the tasks. So a task would typically be a service or time that is collected for the service. You have two methods. You can have a task or time through a check-in, check-out, which is the EBV feature, which uses a mobile app. So we have an Android and an iOS mobile app, which allows your DSPs to check in and check out when they're at the client location, which will then collect time. And if it's EVV, we send the visit forward to HHA Exchange. We also have integrated with NGMMIS. So as a service provider, you can bill for these services directly, or these tasks and time directly through our system. And I will walk you through the authorization process in a few minutes as well. But typically you can have time created, when you say add a task, you can mention what is the task title, description. If you select the project, you then get a list of types of tasks. So I had selected community-based and home visit for this client. So I just get these two options that I can select in order to enter time for Damien. So you can have a task created and check in, check out using our mobile app. So right here, when I come back to the home screen, you see the task created here on the mobile app. When I log in, I would have the same information and could only check into the task when I'm at the client location that is mentioned here. So when I reach the client location, I check in. When I leave the client location, I log back to the app and check out. As an admin, that does help to replace sign-in sheets that you would be collecting for your clients, as it's geographically driven, so they could not check in or check out unless they are at the client location. So it's added security used by a lot of admins to make sure that service is being delivered to the clients, and it's a good audit. Your system's audit ready, right? Your company's audit ready after using all of these features of check-in, check-out, geographically driven through the system. Coming into people, So you can have multiple DSPs associated with a single client, as well as support coordinators. So if you're a support coordination agency, you can have multiple support coordinators who fill in for a client. We have seen that, sometimes there are DSPs who are out on vacation, or, there's somebody else filling in. So in that case, you can always assign any employee who is a part of your system to the client record, and they then get access to all the work that has been done with the client. So your tasks, your projects, in case they, need to see what was the last visit like, based on that, have the next visit scheduled. All of that information can be done by just assigning that employee to the client project. So you can have multiple employees, and once it's completed, you can also delete employees. As a field worker, so these are the different designations. We have admin and field worker for service providers. As a field worker, you only see client data that you are assigned to, but as an admin, you have access to all your clients in the system. So George would only have access to Damien as long as he is associated. The minute I delete, he would not see Damien on his account. So multiple employees can be assigned to a single client through the client page. Coming into contacts, so we store contacts regarding to a client. So the contact could be either the DSP, the family, the sibling information, any information that you would like to store as a contact for a client can be first stored on the system and then associated. You can have a contact, for example, a support coordinator contact, which is associated with many clients, and you will have a list of all the contacts stored. You can then assign these contacts to the client record. What this also helps in is giving access to phone numbers directly through the mobile app. So when your DSPs log in through the mobile app and access the client record, they also see the contacts who are associated with them and can make a phone call directly out. So in case of an emergency, these numbers are readily available through the mobile app, and it gives them a good point towards who should be contacted. So you can set up all of this information, parents, siblings, the DSP, all of that can be customer contacts. Coming to the next, we have files or documents. So you can store different documents for a client, upload these documents through the web app. So I can use the upload button to upload a document which is present on my local machine. I can associate it to a project, right? So when we break down the services, you can break down a document into which service does that document point towards. So it's respite or community based, and then also have it broken down to a task. So for example, if I have a case note that you're currently collecting on paper for a client in the format, you can have a picture taken through the mobile app once filled in by your DSPs and associated to the task or service that it correlates to. So as there are different tasks that your DSPs would be completing, they can have a case note and associate a document directly through the mobile app to that service. So you have the time entered, the type of service provided, as well as the case note related to that service. So all of this information is encapsulated in the client record here. These files can be, so just to go over it, you can have a photo or a file that is present on your mobile app directly connected to a client record, or you can even take a photo through the app and store an image of that on the files. Coming into notes, so we have the case note feature here, where you have different notes that have been entered in for the client. Now these notes can be entered in as a general note, which is connected to a customer, or can also be associated with a specific project and then again with a task. So if you have a visit that you've completed whose case note is information that is being entered into the system, your DSPs can associate it with the task information. So for example, right here, I know there was a home visit on October 31st, and this is the note that was entered in. As this is dummy information, but it gives you a good pointer towards when the task was completed and what was the note that was entered in. Now these notes have Grammarly in it as well. So if it's enabled on your system, whenever your DSPs enter in information here, Grammarly checks for it and makes changes. These notes can also be edited. So in case any information needs to be edited, you can always click the edit button and make the change right here to the case note. So that's notes. You can also export these notes or client bases So you can either have an export or sort these notes as well. Now, as a service provider, coming into the authorizations, right? So every client who has been approved for your agency would have an SDR document with the prior authorization number and the units that have been authorized for a certain service period. It is typically a weekly breakdown, which is mentioned in the SDR. And this information can be entered into our system through a really easy template, which allows you to set up the whole plan year that is mentioned on the SDR with the authorization units for every plan week. What this does is it helps you calculate the units that you have utilized for a client, and you can then accordingly plan to not miss out any units that have already been approved for the client. So for example, here I have 11.1 to 11.8 and a total of 140 units used. I have I've used just 8, so I still have this remaining. And this flows on to the whole plan year. So, I can add it up all the way to the plan end year. And then in the end, I know a total of how many units I have remaining. So, if there is a client that cancels or a visit does not take place, it was scheduled, it was canceled from the system, we keep the calculation. So towards the end of the month, you know that you have these many units approved, but you used only, say you have 100 units approved, you used 80. So you can then schedule tasks in the last week in order to not lose the 20 units and get paid for that, right? I can show you an example of how this works. So this is the prior authorization information for the first service period from September 1st to the 8th. And we have used 8 units up to now with 132 remaining. As a DSP, if this was a non-EDD service, I can enter in time for that client, right? So I'm going to say, Damien, I had a visit on, I'll say it was a home visit for Damien that I completed. And I can then select the task type. So it's a home visit and entering when was the visit complete. So I'm going to say 11.3. So this is a 2-hour task, right? So I performed a 2-hour service as a home visit task type on the 3rd of November. When I hit submit, this information is visible on the client timesheet. So when I go to the timesheet for 3rd, I will see this information present here, a home visit. But when I go to the client record, and I go to the authorizations, it will update your authorization remaining units based on the hours that you have used on certain days. So this updates the whole client plan. So you have the total number of units being updated as a good view here. And what this also does is it gets your billing claim ready. So we have a charge capture option, which is basically the prior authorization information for all your clients and services in a single page. As you see here, we have the client demographic information that would be required for the claim to be filed, along with the tasks that have been completed. So now I know that for this service period, I have a total of 16 units used and 124 remaining. When this service period is completed, you can make sure that it's the right service hours and units, click on the visit, and then send it to bill. Once you hit the send option, it's going to send it to the claims table. And a claims table is where you would be seeing your claim information. So this is the claim information that would be going forward to NGMMIS. You can verify that all the information, the start date, end date, total number of units, amount looks right, the service code, the procedure code, and then just hit the claim and hit the send button. We receive the file and we submit this forward to NGMMIS in order to get your claims billed for. So when you have these visits, you can manage all of the authorizations through the charge capture, making sure all the tasks have been completed and units have been used for a service period. As for EVV, most of the procedure code is associated with different task types, right? So for EVV services, you could have individualized supports, community-based supports, personal behavioral health supports as well. So these task types, when your DSPs have a task completed with this task type as community-based support, we would then send that information forward as soon as the check-in and check-out happens through the mobile app to HHA, and you would get billed for directly. As for non-EVV clients, we use the NGMMIS or the manual billing authorization process, and it gives you a good view of how many units you have remaining right here. right? On the system, that's regarding client information. On the system, we also have a locate option. So a locate option is basically a list of what your employees are currently doing in the system, or when was the last time that they checked in or checked out of a task. So as an admin, it gives you a good view of where your employees are currently. We do not track the employees, but track the check-in and check-out, or a timesheet or a task that has been entered in for an employee here. So you will see when was the last time an employee worked with a client, who was the client, what was the address. And if it's an EVV visit, your client, sometimes your DSPs miss out to check out from a client location and they cannot check out because it's geographically driven. You as an admin can do a manual checkout through the locate page. So you have more control of the hours, that your employee is spending at a client location. In case there are any errors, they can be resolved by you directly through the system by using the checkout feature through the locate tab. Coming in, we have plan information. So this shows you all the different plans that your clients have, and you can track these as well as have the end dates mentioned according to the SDR documents. Now, coming into reporting, so we have extensive reporting of all the information that we collect, tasks reports, EVV visits, authorizations, and we also build custom reports based on an agency. But as for the default reports, we have the task report, which gives you a list of, which gives you a list of the different employees and clients whose different tasks have been completed and what is the time spent on these tasks. We also have a filter option, so you can filter these reports based on either employee, customer ID, DVD ID, and then export them out as a CSV or PDF. So a lot of configuration even in the reporting available, and you can also select what kind of columns do you need. So if there is information that you do not really need, like task date or actually task ID, employee ID, you can hide this information and then export it. So it gives you information in the format that you would want directly through these reports. We then have an active customer report, which is your whole client roster present here with all of the information that has been stored for them. For support coordination, we also have these two reports, which is the management review and the empty completion detail report. So it's the monitoring tool document, which gives you a high-level view of, as an admin, a high-level view of your DSPs or support coordinators, where they are in the process, as well as your client information. The plan renewal report, again, is something that relates to support coordination. So in case there is a client plan ending in the current month, the next month or 3 months later, it will display this information here, and you can then work on the renewal process. And then we have the payroll report, the department, and the NJ consolidated department report mentioned here. Coming into billing, as a billing, we have the prior authorization utilization report. We have the service authorization report. This typically gives you an idea of all the different authorizations that have been entered in. So when you use the SDR document to create the authorizations, that can be viewed in a report. When you use the utilization report, you also have an idea of how many charges, what was the charge that was authorized for a client based on the prior authorization information that you entered in, and what was billed for through our system. So it gives you a good idea of, all the service that you have provided, you have been billed for and you've been paid for it. So the information like that can be processed through the reporting. Once the claims have been submitted to NJMMIS, we have extensive reporting there as well. So claim balance, if there are any denied claims, any denied visits, what is the transaction report, which gives you an information of all the different claims that were submitted. And you can also see all of this information on the claims dashboard. So typically we have a claim status option here. Currently it's ready to bill when I submit it. Actually, let me submit it. So when I submit the claim, when I hit the send button, it would say released. So the claim is now on our end, and we will submit it to NJMMIS. Whenever we get a reply back, we will update the claim status. So, if the claim has been approved, the claim has been denied, all of that information. And if the claim has been denied, we also have the error code, error description, which lets you know of what change needs to be made. Typically it's sometimes the prior authorization, maybe the diagnosis code is not accepted as the primary. Issues like this would be mentioned in the error code. You can then make changes directly here to the claim and resubmit to the system. So your whole billing process operates through the claims dashboard, which lets you keep a track of a claim to make sure that it has been paid for and you do not lose out on any money that you've already been approved for. So the claims
So Sunny,
dashboard.
sorry to interrupt, but there are a couple of questions that you can probably handle here that I'll just read out, right? So these are related to prior authorization and how there are a few questions. I'll summarize it. So one is, how is the how do we manually enter prior authorization or information, or is there an automated way of handling prior authorization? Another one, how is the authorizations entered? Same thing. Does it automatically added by units once you upload the SDR, or does the admin staff need to enter each week? So just some prior authorization questions might be good hand. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Perfectly fine. So with the authorizations, right? Currently, it's a manual process that an admin enters in, but in our roadmap, we do have a way of getting the SDR information directly into the system. For now, it's through the template that we have, which basically does not change. So it's a one-time process. Let me just show you the prior authorization that we have. Yeah. So this is the template that we have typically that you could enter in your SDR information in. It has the same DDD ID for the client. So it's the same client mentioned here. The only information that changes is the service start date and date. And you can define on how you want to break this down. You know, in the SDR, it's a weekly breakdown. So you can just copy what is present from the SDR with the units and the amount through in this file. Once you have this information created, you can upload it onto the system, and it can be the whole plan here, right? From the day the plan has started all the way to the plan ended. And this information can also be updated. You know, sometimes the units are changed mid-plan, you know, there's units being added in. So you can do all of that through the template, upload it the first time, and then make a change. And we handle all of that through the system. So you can just export this file as a CSV. It's a one-time process for a client. You just enter this in, and we record all of it on the client tab. So we have authorizations that goes all the way. So if I go to Damien, go to authorizations, we have November. My plan's ending in December, so I have information all the way up to December. So same way it can be done for a year ahead. And so to answer the question, it's a manual process for now, but we're trying to get this into an automated process as well of reading the SDR. But it's a manual process. We would use the SDR as a reference to create the prior authorization file, upload it to our system as the charge capture, and you would see all of this information. Any other questions?
So there's some questions around EVV. How does the app work? Can you just talk about it?
Sure. So the app, we've tried to make this process as easy to use as possible for the DSPs, you know, not to have a lot of them. We do not want to give them additional steps to do, but try to reduce, you know, the clicks that they need on the system. So once a task has been created, when your DSP is logged into the mobile app, they would see the task for the day right in front of the home screen. When they're at the client location, they would just hit the check-in button. And if they are not at the client location, the system does let them know that you are not at the client location, so you cannot sign in. But if they are at the client location, they're able to sign into that task. They do not need to be on the app. They can close the app, you know, go out. Once the service, it's a 3-hour visit, you have the service completed. You open the app, you log back in, you will see that the task is already checked in when you last did it. So you would then hit the checkout button, and we record that time. So your DSPs would typically only have to use the app when they first initially check into the start time, and then check out when they're leaving the client location, and we collect that as a visit. So if you have a visit from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., you will have a check-in at 8:05 by the DSP, and then a checkout at 10. We send this information to HHA as soon as the visit has been checked out. So as for the DSP's end, it's just a regular task creation and then a check-in and check-out through the mobile app. And these tasks can be created through the mobile app as well. It does not necessarily need to be created by the admin. You know, the DSPs can create their own tasks. We do have recurring tasks as well, where you can set up tasks. So if you typically have a schedule decided for a client, you know, on days that you would be working with the client. So you can have these set up as recurring tasks. In case there is a cancellation, your DSPs can cancel the visit through our system, reschedule another visit. So all of this capability is available through the mobile app for the DSPs as well as the admin. Yeah, but it's a single check-in, check-out through the mobile app for EVV. And you can also collect case notes. We have a voice-to-text feature on the notes in the mobile app. So when you're at the client location, you don't necessarily need to be typing in the notes. You can use the mic feature to speak into the phone, which then collects a note and it's stored onto the system. So case notes can be entered in through voice to text through our mobile app, as well as the uploading of documents. Everything can be done through the mobile app.
How do you ensure that my data is secure?
Yes. So the system's completely Yes, the system's completely HIPAA compliant. We store data in military-grade databases. The information is visible to an admin. You see all of the information, but we have designations on the system which even provide, what kind of data do you want to be seen by your DSPs? They see only clients who they're associated to, who they would otherwise even have information of through our system. They would not see any client who they're not assigned to. So, there's data security there, as well as it's a single sign-on. Every employee has their own login password that they would use to get into the system, and we use security two-factor authentication as well while logging in. So it's an added security feature to make sure that all the client data is safe on our system.
There's another question. Does FieldWorker handle daily logs, documentation of service rendered by a DSP?
Yes, so you can break these down. So in the reporting, you can have a list of, as a case manager, these are your different clients. You can have a list or a report of the different services that have been provided. We also have timesheets and caseload reports. So when I go to the timesheet or the caseload report, typically it gives you a list of the different visits, services that have been provided. Now you can use the filter option to filter this based on employee or client, and you get a list of all the different, touch points that have been mentioned. So if you have an employee who has different tasks created for a certain day or a certain service period, you can filter the data based on the employee, and that will then give you a report of, all the different services that a certain employee has completed through the system.
Yeah, to add to that, we have extensive reporting of different types, which is filterable by different criteria. And so many different types of reports can be generated to get daily logs.
Yes. So, for example, this is one of the timesheet reports that we have. When I click custom report, I can either enter it based on different task types. So if I want to know only what were my, let me see, what are my home visits, I can do a search, and that's going to basically give me only the data that is a home visit. So here, and I say run report, it's going to give me a list of only the different home visits that were created for my client. So this could be either visit, it could be based on clients or employees, and it has all of the information. So I just run this, and then I can close this information. You see that we have, for example, tasks. What was the task title? What was the task type? What was the case note that was associated with this task? All of this information mentioned right here. And again, you can export this out as a CSV or a PDF whenever needed. And so we have task title, start time, end time, all of this information that you can view here, and then export these out as reports. So, based on different projects.
Sorry, Sunny, Rohit, we are coming towards the end of the time. I think there's a question about the support, how we handle support.
Yes, so there's a question about how do you provide technical support? Our team members sometimes have issues with the system we are using. How do you handle that?
Yes, so we have extensive support. We have 24/7 support regarding this product, and we have an email, so it's support@fieldworker.ai that your DSPs can use to directly get in contact with us. As an admin, we also have a representative from the agency who's in contact with you, in case there is any problem or issue on the system. But typically, the support@fieldworker.ai email, your DSPs can send out emails, and we reply pretty fast with, any problems. We have one-on-one meetings if needed with your DSPs. We do understand that it's a change in the process, with what they have been doing with paper time sheets for this long. Something like this is a change in the process, and we're here to handle it and walk them through it every time they need to. So, in case there is a training that they need, a 30-minute call just to walk them through the process, we handle all of that as well. So we have first an initial training with all your DSPs. If needed, we also have personalized training information that, they can then go through the process and make sure that they're doing what they need to do through our system. Yes.
There's another question around daily logs and the fields that the daily log should have. Name, employee, plan year, outcome strategies, etc., etc. So to answer that question partly, our reports are very, very flexible with many different fields. We also cater to many different states, and so you can get the reports that you need out of the system with the fields that you choose. You can also save the view. That'll give you the report that you need. Also, on top of that, we work very closely with all our clients. And if there are any specific reports that you need, we are happy to, create a customized report for you. That might be specifically a need for your state agency or for your agency directly as well, from a reports perspective.
Yes. And just point, we have all of the information, we collect all of this information. It's just about putting it in a report. So when an agency signs up, we work with the admin to get these reports set up on their system. As we have access to all of this information, we just need to display it in a certain format. So we work with the agency to get this reported before they start using the system. When they start using the system, to have this access to this report. Yes. What I can also do really fast is walk through the empty forms for support coordination. So, just going over how we handle a bit of the support coordination through our system. All of this information, client record, client, the projects, the contacts, all of this information is the same as a support coordinator as well. The only additional part is the empty document that is mandated by DDD. So I'm going to log out as a service provider and log back in to one of my other accounts. As support coordination, the difference with the setup is the DDD sync. We operate off the file from iRecord. So as a support coordinator, you have access to iRecord, where you can export a file of all your client information. You can export that from our system and import it from iRecord and import it into our system, which sets up all your client information and associated DSPs through the system. Once it has been set up and your support coordinators typically log in, they have access to create the monthly monitoring or the quarterly monitoring tool for a client. So for example, this is one of my accounts where I have a list of different customers who I'm associated with, and I can then create the document or the monthly monitoring tool or the quarterly monitoring tool document for these clients. It's a very easy process to our system. As I said, we have pre-saved information for every client. So when I click on initiate form for November, I hit continue the form. You will see that most of the client information is pre-filled. We have access to the quarterly and the monthly empty. So your support coordinators can create an empty based on what was the type of visit. Coming into section 1, you'll see most of the client information is pre-filled. We have drop-down options. So we've made the process of form filling really easy through our system by saving certain information that does not change monthly. But again, your support coordinators have the option to make a change just in case it's needed. We also have a lot of validation on the form. So, just to make sure that it's an accurate form when submitted to iRecord, we have an approval process where your support coordinators would fill in all of these sections, submit it to the admin for a review. The admin reviews the document and then approves it. Your support coordinators can then download a Word document and upload it to iRecord. So all of this is on the system. You cannot submit a form that is not completed yet, so it does not allow you to submit a form. So by having all of this validation, we make sure that the empty form that comes into the admin the first time is it's just text that needs to be changed. Typically, if there's data that is not that great with the contact summary, you can have this information mentioned, and all of that can be handled through our system. So just want to give a fast round of how empty tools can be created to our system. So if I just cancel this, I go to an approved document. For example, this is one of the documents that was approved for my clients. You will see it's all of the information that is required with the summary. I can then hit the download button, have the form saved. When I hit save, it opens up the Word document exactly in the format that you would need to upload to iReckon. So all of the information that your support coordinators enter onto the system is mentioned in this form. They can just save it to their local machine and then upload it to iReckon. And again, we do not delete any information of the system. So, previous months data, previous months, when I go to columns, I go to September, October, I will see that I have the previous months approved empties. I have anything that was not completed. All of that mentioned right on the customer screen. And another additional advantage of using the empty process is that, so the empty is the billable for support coordination, right? We use the prior authorization process as a support coordinator. It's a file that you get from DDD every month. It's the SCPA file. We use that in order to generate your claim just like the service provider. So if there is a prior authorization, that number changes every month. So prior authorization number, service period, we check if the MT has been approved, which is the billable, and you see all of this information. You can then bill for a claim through NGNYS. So your billing time is reduced to minutes once you have this process where you just upload the prior auth. We have the DVD information from iReckon. Your SC's complete monitoring tools. At the end of the month, you can verify that there is a tool for every claim and then file those claims by a single click. So if we get these claims before Friday 3 p.m., we process it the same week. You see a remittance on Monday, get paid the following Friday. So billing is a really ironed out process when you use it with the MTs.
Thanks, Sunny. That's fantastic. Thank you. We are about 8 minutes over our allocated time. So I think might be, we don't want to impinge on people's time beyond what we allocated. What we would suggest is that if there are any questions that have not been answered that you might still have, to drop any of us an email, reach out to us, and we are happy to answer them. Our email addresses are in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much for attending the webinar. Everybody, thank you to the panelists, and thank you to the attendees. And we look forward to talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.